Hello everyone, this is Dr. Satish S. Bornare, Department of Genetics and Plant Breeding, Kekewak College of Agriculture, Nasik. Today we are going to learn the topic types of ecosystem. First type of ecosystem is forest ecosystem, and there are ecosystem having predominance of the trees that are interspersed with the large number of species of the herbs, shrubs, climbers, lichens, algae, and wide variety of wild animals and birds. So this forest ecosystem having large number of the trees along with the wild animals and birds. So depending upon the prevailing climatic conditions, this forest can be of various types. Then first type is tropical rainforest. As these tropical rainforests are evergreen broadleaf forest found near the equator. They are characterized by high temperature, high humidity, high rainfall, all of which favor the growth of trees. So this forest ecosystem is predominantly of a trees ecosystem. All through the year or all around the year, climate remain more or less uniform, and they are a richest source of the biodiversity because there are number of or large number of trees are present. The Silent Valley in the Kerala is the only tropical rainforest lying in the India, which is the natural habitat of, for wide variety of species. So the Silent Valley in Kerala is an example of forest, tropical rainforest. Then tropical deciduous forest. This tropical deciduous forest found little away from the equator and characterized by a warm climate, and the year round the rain occurs only during the monsoon. A large part of the year remain dry, and therefore different types of deciduous trees are found here, which lose their leaves during the dry season. As the name indicates, dry deciduous forest, the leaves of the trees are dry or loose during the dry season. Then tropical scrub forest, they are found in the areas where the dry season is ever longer. Here there are small deciduous trees and shrubs are found. The next type is temperate rainforest. They are found in the temperate areas with adequate rainfall, and these are dominated by the coniferous trees like pines, firs, redwoods, etc. They also consist of the some evergreen broadleaf trees. Next type is the temperate deciduous forest. They are found in areas with moderate temperature, and there is marked seasonality with the long summers, cold but not too severe winter, and the abundant rainfall throughout the year. The major trees included in this type of forest is broadleaf deciduous trees like oak, hickory, and poplar, etc. Then evergreen coniferous forest or the boreal forest, they are found just south of the Arctic tundra. Here winter are long, cold and dry, and sunlight is available for a few hours only. So these are the different types of forest which are normally observed throughout the India. Then what are the different component or structure of the forest ecosystem? In which biotic component, the producers are mainly trees like acer, betula, sesame, pine, teak, cedrus, etc. And apart from these trees, some climate climbers, epiphytes, shrubs, and ground vegetations are also observed as a producer. Then consumers, in which primary consumers, the ants, beetles, bugs, spiders, etc. are observed feeding on the tree leaves, and larger animals like elephants, deers, giraffes, etc. are grazing on the shoots or fruits of the trees. So these are the primary consumers. They feeds on the producers. Then secondary consumers, the snakes, lizards, birds, frogs, foxes, etc., which feed on the primary consumers. And last one is a tertiary consumers, which feed on the secondary consumers. They are lion and tiger, etc. So then third one is decomposers. These decomposers are microbes like saprophytic microorganisms like bacteria and fungus, in which bacteria, bacillus species, clostridium species, pseudomonas species, And in the case of fungus, aspergillus, ganoderma, fusarium, and actinomyces, that is streptomyces, are present in the forest ecosystem. So these are the biotic component. Then in case of abiotic components, the basic inorganic constituent like carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, sulfur, and organic compound present in the soil and atmosphere. And in addition, dead organic debris is also found in litter forest. So these are the type of forest in which different dead organic debris are also found. So these are the structure of forest ecosystem. Next is grassland ecosystem. The grassland ecosystems are dominated by grass species, but sometimes allow the growth of few trees and shrubs. And rainfall is average but erratic, and limited grazing helps to improve the net primary production of the grassland, but the overgrazing leads to the degradation of this grassland, resulting in desertification. And this grassland ecosystem having three important types. First one is a tropical grassland, second one is a temperate grassland, and third one is a polar grassland. So this tropical grassland occur near the border of the tropical rainforest in the region of high average temperature and low moderate rainfall. In Africa, they are typically known as savannas. These savannas are famous tropical grassland. This savanna means the having tall grasses with scattered shrubs and stunted trees. And the savannas have wide diversity of animals including zebras, giraffe, gazelle, antelopes, etc. Termite mound are very common here. So this is the another important one feature of the tropical grassland, having the termite mounds. Then temperate grassland. They are usually found on the flat, gentle slope hills. Winters are the very cold, but summers are hot and dry in case of this temperate grassland. Intense grazing and summer fires do not allow the shrubs or trees to grow in case of temperate grassland, and the soil are quite fertile, and therefore very often these grasslands are cleared for the agriculture. So is growing agriculture clear the temperate grassland as their soil is fertile. Then polar grassland like Arctic tundra, they are found in Arctic polar region where the severe colds and strong frigid winds along with the ice and snow creates a too harsh climate for trees to grow. So in case of polar grassland, the animals includes Arctic wolf, weasel, Arctic fox, reindeer, etc. And tree species are very limited or unavailable in case of polar grassland. So this here the structure of the grassland ecosystem in which biotic component, in which producers are the mainly grasses, though a few herbs and shrubs are also observed. In case of consumers, in case of primary consumers, cow, sheep, goats, deer, mouse, rabbits, all these are present due to the producers grasses. These cattle feed on the grasses, and besides this there are insects and termites present also. Then secondary consumers, the frogs, snake, birds, foxes, jackals, owls, etc. And tertiary consumers are hawks, lions, and tigers. So these are the different primary, secondary, and tertiary consumers present in the grassland ecosystem. Then in case of the decomposers, bacteria, fungus, and actinomyces are present. And in case of abiotic component, basic organic and inorganic compound present in the soil and the aerial environment. The essential elements like carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, sulfur, etc. are supplied by water. Then nitrogen, nitrates, sulfates, phosphates present in the soil and atmosphere. So this is the abiotic component of the grassland ecosystem. And here the overview of the grassland ecosystem, in which we can see the producers, consumers, and top carnivores also, and decomposers also. Then next is a desert ecosystem. This ecosystem occurs in the region where evaporation exceeds the precipitation, that is rainfall or snow, etc. the precipitation is less than 25 centimeter per year, and near about one third of our world land area is covered by this desert. And desert have little species diversity and consist of drought resistance and drought avoiding plants. The atmosphere is very dry and hence it is very poor insulator. That's why the temperature is go down suddenly in case of desert, because the atmosphere is poor insulator. Then this desert ecosystem having three types. First one is a tropical deserts like Sahara and Namib in Africa. Thar desert of Rajasthan in India are the driest of the all, with only few species. Wind blown sand dunes are very common in this tropical desert ecosystem. Then second one is a temperate desert like Mojave in southern California, where daytime temperature are very hot in summer but cool in winter. And last type is cold deserts, where in case of cold deserts, the Gobi Desert in the China is the example and has a cold winters and warm summers. So these are the three different type of desert ecosystem. This is the overview of the desert ecosystem, in which different producer, consumers and biotic and abiotic components are seen. So the structure of desert ecosystem, in which biotic component, first is producer. Producers are mainly shrub, bushes, some grasses and a few xeroptic plants. Lower plants such as lichens and xeroptic mosses are also present. So these are the producers, in which the some of the shrubs and grasses, and mostly the xeroptic plants are present in the producers. Then consumers, animals such as insects, reptiles and some nocturnal rodents and birds, and some mammalian like camels are present in this desert ecosystem. And then decomposers, the common decomposers are bacteria and fungus, and most of them are thermophilic, and they are preferable the high temperature. So the temperature in the deserts is too high, so these bacteria and fungus, and most of which are thermophilic. Then abiotic component, due to the high temperature and very low rainfall, the organic substances are poorly present in the soil. So this is the overall structure of the desert ecosystem. Next one is a aquatic ecosystem. Aquatic ecosystem dealing with the water bodies and the biotic communities present in them, either freshwater or marine water. So the aquatic ecosystems are of two type: freshwater ecosystem and marine water ecosystem. Out of which this freshwater ecosystem are further two type, that is the standing water type called as lentic like ponds and lakes, and another type is a free floating water called as lotic. Examples are rivers and streams. Out of which the freshwater ecosystem, first ecosystem is a pond ecosystem. It is a small freshwater aquatic ecosystem where water is a stagnant. So this pond ecosystem is an example of lentic ecosystem, in which the water is stagnant. And ponds may be seasonal in nature, that is receiving enough water during the rainy season. These ponds are usually shallow water bodies which play a very important role in the villages, where the most of activities center around the ponds. And as you all know that these ponds are the important sources or resources of water for the village peoples. They contain the several types of algae, aquatic plants, insect, fishes and birds also. So here is an overview of the pond ecosystem, in which different producers, then consumers and top carnivores are present. And the structure of the pond ecosystem having biotic component and abiotic component, in which biotic component produces two types of large rooted and floating vegetations, together termed as macrophytes and phytoplanktons, which are the microscopic floating organisms. So in case of producer there are two types: macrophytes and phytoplanktons. These macrophytes are the rooted and floating vegetation, and phytoplanktons are the microscopic floating organism. In this phytoplankton, two types of phytoplanktons are present. First is filamentous like Lothrix, Oidogonium, Spirogyra, Anabina, and minute floating like there is microcystis, then glioid tree, China, and volvox. These are the different minute floating phytoplankton present as a producer in the pond ecosystem. Then the macrophytes like Typha, Acarus, Ipomia, and submerged plant like Hydrilla, and Utricularia, Trappa, and Nymphia, etc. are present, and some of them are surface floating also, like Pistia, Lemna, and Wolfia, Ignoria, Salvinia. These are the some surface floating plants which are present as a producer. Then next to producer, then consumer. In case of primary consumer, zooplankton, that means which are feed on the phytoplanktons. They are primary consumers include Brachynos, Lecni, Coleps, Dileptus, Cyclops, Crustacean who feed on the phytoplankton, and secondary consumers which feed on the primary consumers, that is zooplankton, are insects, beetles, fishes from the from as they feed on zooplanktons. So these are the secondary consumers. Then tertiary consumers, they are like snake, big fishes which are feed on the secondary consumers. Then decomposers, various saprophytes and some parasites are found in the pond ecosystem, and bacteria, fungus like Aspergillus, Cladosporium, Rhizopus, Alternaria, Fusarium, then Saprolegnia are the common decomposers observed in the pond ecosystem, and abiotic components are like temperature, light, water, various inorganic and organic compounds. So these are the structure of pond ecosystem. Then next to this lake ecosystem, these lakes are usually big freshwater bodies with standing water. They have a shallow water zone called as littoral zone, as we see in the diagram also. The shallow water zone is called as littoral zone, and open water zone where effective penetration of solar light takes place called as limnotic zone. We can see here the limnotic zone. And last one is a deep bottom area where the light penetration is negligible, known as profundal zone. These are the different zones of the lake ecosystem. And the Dal Lake in Srinagar, that is in Jammu Kashmir, and Naini Lake in Nainital, Uttaranchal, and Loktak Lake in the Manipur are the some of the famous examples of the lakes in our country. So these are the different examples of the lakes. Then there are different types of lake also. First is oligotrophic lakes, that means which have low nutrient concentration. Then eutrophic lakes, which are over nourished by nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus, usually as the result of agriculture runoff or the municipal sewage discharge, and they are covered with the algal bloom. For example, the Dal Lake is an example of eutrophic lake which are overnourished by the nutrients. Then dystrophic lakes that have low pH, high humic acid content and brown water, for example bog lakes. Then endemic lakes that are very ancient, deep, have endemic fauna and which are restricted only to the that lake. For example, the Lake Baikal in Russia, the deepest lake which is now suffering threat due to the industrial pollution. So this is another type of lake, that is endemic lake, which is very ancient. Then desert salt lake that occur in arid region and develop high salt concentration as the result of high evaporation. And Great Salt Lake Uttar and Sambar Lake in Rajasthan are the example of desert salt lake. Then volcanic lakes, these volcanic lakes that receive water from the magma after volcanic eruption. For example, many lakes in the Japan are the produced by this volcanic eruption known as volcanic lakes. They have highly restricted biota. Then, then next is meromictic lakes that are rich in salts and predominantly stratified. Example, the Lake Naveda. So these are the example of Merovitic lake. Then last one is artificial lake like Govind Sagar lake at Bhakranangal. So these are the different types of lake. Then structure of this lake, abiotic component, that temperature, light, protein, lipids, oxygen, carbon dioxide, these are the abiotic component of the lake. And in case of biotic, the producers are green plants, maybe submerged, free floating and amphibious plant. Example, different phytoplanktons, algae and flagellates. These are the producers of the lake. Then consumers, in case of consumers, the primary consumer, that is zooplankton, which feed on the phytoplankton, are silk protozoans. Examples are silk protozoans. Then secondary consumers are insects and small species, and tertiary consumers are large species like game fish. So these are the different types of consumers. Then decomposers, the decomposers that decompose the dead plants and animals, for example, the bacteria, fungus, and actinonectaries. So these are the different decomposers present in the lake ecosystem. Then river ecosystem. These rivers are the large stream that flow downward from the mountain highlands and flowing through the plains fall into the sea. So the river ecosystem shows the series of different conditions, and there are different stages of the river. First is the mountain highland part has cold water rushing down as waterfalls with the large amount of dissolved oxygen, and the plants are attached to the rocks, and the fishes are cold water high oxygen requiring fish like trouts. So this is the first phase of the river. Then in second phase, on the gentle slope, the water are warmer and support luxuriant growth of the plants, and less oxygen requiring fishes are present in the second phase of the river. In the last phase or third phase, the river waters are the very rich in the biotic diversity, and moving down the hills, rivers, shapes and lands, and they bring with the lots of silt rich nutrients which deposited in the plains and the delta before they reaching the ocean. So river moving from the different phases as discussed here, and in last phase this reaches to the ocean. Then what are the components of the reverse ecosystem? In case of abiotic components, the light, temperature, organic and inorganic constituents. Then in case of biotic components, different phytoplankton, algae, water grasses, aquatic mosses and other amphibious plants are the producers. While in case of consumer, and the water insects and snails fishes are the phytoplanktons or primary consumers. Then this is the water insects, snails and fishes are zooplankton which feeds on the phytoplankton. Then secondary consumers, they are feed on the primary consumers, like example like bird. And decomposers, in case of decomposers, the dead that decompose the dead animals and plant, for example bacteria, algae and fungus. These are the bacteria and fungus, these are the example of decomposers. So this is the structure of the river ecosystem. Then last is ocean ecosystem. So this is the marine ecosystem, and these are the gigantic reservoir of the water conserving more than 70% of our Earth's surface, and play a key role in survival of about 250,000 marine species, and serving as a food for human and other organism, and gives huge variety of sea products and drugs. These are the resources of various important foods for the human and other organism. And oceans are the major sinks of the carbon dioxide and play important role in regulating many biochemical cycles and hydrological cycle, thereby regulating the earth climate. So ocean is another one important factor regulating the different cycles and regulating the earth climate. The open sea, it is the deepest part of the ocean, where away from the continent shelf, the submerged part of the continent, and it is vertically divided into three regions. First is euphotic zone, which receive the abundant light and show high photosynthetic activity. Second one is a bathyal zone, receives dim light and usually geologically active. Then third is Abyssal zone is the dark zone, 2000 to 5000 meter deep. The abyssal zone has no primary source of energy, that is solar energy. It is the world's largest ecological unit, but it is an incomplete ecosystem. So this ocean or sea is divided into vertically divided into different three regions, and these different three regions play an important role in ocean ecosystem. First is ephotic zone, then bathyal zone, and then axial zone. In the diagram, we can see the different zones. The first one is then bathyal zone and then axial zone. So these are the different zones and different parameters are given here. And this is the ocean ecosystem. Then what are the structure of this ecosystem? The biotic component in which the producers includes the phytoplanktons like diatoms and dinophagiates, large seaweeds mainly the algae like chlorophyraceae, paophyceae, then rhodophyceae, angiosperm like rupia, zostera and posidonia, and mangrove vegetations like rhizophora and carapa, etc. These are the different phytoplanktons present as a producer in the ocean. Then consumers, in case of primary consumers, the crustaceans, mollusks, fish. In case of secondary consumers, the carnivorous species like herring, shad and mackerel are the secondary consumers. And in case of tertiary or top carnivorous species like cod, haddock are present in the ocean ecosystem. Then in case of decomposers, the microorganisms like bacteria and fungi are present. And in case of abiotic component, high sodium, calcium, magnesium and potassium salt concentration are present in the ocean ecosystem, and variable dissolved oxygen content, light and temperature make a unique physiochemical conditions in the marine water ecosystem like ocean ecosystem. So thank you friends, this video is for educational purpose only and references are as below. Thanks once again.